All right, kiddos, looks like we're live. Let me know in the chats whether you guys can hear me. I know I'm in full HD right now. You guys can probably see all of my pores because this quality is so good. Let me know how you guys are doing. I just came back from a brunch, which was tasty. We've got Sean in the chat. Big Boy Ties is in here. We've got Kemi as always. Pumbaa, the Grand Pumbaa. Icy Spicy, where do we submit? The instructions are new now. We're going to have I feel like I change this every single time. K-Breeze is in here. Nathan Whipple. We are loud and clear. We will do our requisite audio test and then we'll get started. With the new instructions, I'm going to put the keyword in the keyword section. If you guys are in the Discord, under the submission section, you guys can see that I opened up a new thingy, a new channel, where I will type in the keyword. So if you're new, you don't have to wait for me to keep repeating it or someone in the chat to tell you. Go into the Discord. You guys can see in the keyword section. I'm going to type in the keyword right now, actually, and we will have a fun little time. Riaz says, I don't have a Discord. I don't think you need an email address. Just click the link to the Discord. It'll just ask you what your name is, and then that's all you really need, I think. And then you can see the different thingies. What about the fixing your beats video? I filmed that yesterday, so that's done. So this submission video thing is going to be cut off. I'm going to be doing these periodically, so be on the lookout. I'll announce it when some other stream sometime, probably in a month or two when the next one's going to be. There's no thingy. There's no thing appearing. What does that mean? Oh, there's no keyword thing? Hold on. Or did I put it in? Oh, I think I put it as private. Hold on 1 second, guys. View channel allows members to view this channel. Voila! It is open, guys. Get in there. I have put in the first keyword. Let me know. Yeah, we go. Drew says he sees it now. Kemi, wait, you guys aren't supposed to be able to type in here. Hold on, fellas. Let me... Oh, God. Where is Grout when you need him? Send messages, X. Roles and members. Members will have X on the send messages. And there we go. You rascals are typing in here. I gotta delete your messages now. Give me a second here. All right, so hopefully you guys can see what the first keyword is. Obviously, don't type in that phrase. Tell me the actual answer. And yeah, we will get to it. Tanisha says, big fan, studying for exams, but after the exams, we'll watch all my videos and get into action. Excellent. Good priorities there. Don't want to fail your exams. But yeah, so we'll get started. You guys can see the first keyword, right? I want to make sure that that's actually visible. Well, I can just check my email. Oh yeah, I see them coming in. So you guys do. Oh, Sai literally typed in that phrase. Silly Sai. All right, so we'll start with the first Discord beat for the people that couldn't make it. We'll take a listen there. Let me know what your reviews are during the stream as well. It always helps seeing what your guys' feedback is because it really helps me pick up on stuff. Yep, Sai says in the chat, he did type the exact phrase. I saw that. Mega Newman, what's going on, my friend? So yeah, let me know how you guys are doing. The stream will probably run for 2 hours. Ravel says, where can I send you my beat? Instructions are right there. Follow those instructions and you're good. Yeah, let me know how you guys are doing. Hopefully you're having a good Sunday. Hopefully you've gone to church. You've prayed for forgiveness for all the evil things that you've done throughout the week. Let's start with the first beat here in the Discord. I'm gonna take a listen to a beat. Let's go with someone who I don't think I've. You know what? This was a new German fella in the Discord named Big Boy's Ties. Big Boy Ties. He says, as you scroll through the beat submissions filled with epic pictures, maybe this will catch your attention. It did. So let's listen to it. Wait a minute. There's a bunch of reactions on his beat that are negative or positive. Let's take a listen to Big Boy Ty's submission. Instructions, if you want to submit, are right next to me. This way, I think, I hope. And go into the Discord, look at the keyword thing, submit it. So let's get started, guys. Let me know what you guys think of this beat, and here we go.
All of you are dead!
All right, that was Big Boy Ties, his beat there, called 173 BPM C Flip. Cool beat. I really liked the sound selection in here for the most part. The melodic percussion was a really cool little layer. That's always a unique way to make a beat in my opinion, and I really like those types of beats where it almost acts like an arpeggiating sound where it's just like the same up and down repeating pattern. But it's just, obviously it's a unique sound or way to go about building a beat. The sound selection outside of that, I really like the flute and what you did with it throughout the beat. You kept things changing and moving, which was nice. The beat was felt very unstructured, but not in a bad way almost. Like it feels like one of those beats where a rapper would just go on for like 2 minutes straight and just rap their asses off. They don't really care about having a hook section per se, just because you didn't build out the beat in that way. But nonetheless, you kept things moving, you kept things changing, and I think you did a good job of that. As many people in the chats said, there were a couple of things that sort of stood out in terms of some smaller changes that you might want to make. The 808 was a bit muddy, but it's not the worst thing in the world. You still did choose an 808 that fit complementary to the other sounds. Is just the low end bit that might need a little bit more cleaning, but it didn't really get in the way or it wasn't an overbearing 808 in terms of like conflicting with other instruments. The clap was a bit weak, like Anton in the chat mentioned. He mentioned that, and I sort of did pick up on that as well. So you may want to slap some Camel Crusher on that. That's what I typically would have done in that situation. The clap itself in terms of like the shape of it, the texture, the frequency that it took up sounded fine. It was just the way too, it just wasn't loud enough essentially. And so if you really wanted to crack, slap some Camel Crusher on there. I did a video on that. I think it was like the plugin that will help your drums. So watch that video if you want a tutorial on how to use Camel Crusher. But cool beat overall. I really liked it. Unique way of building out a beat with that percussion loop. And I love beats that sort of go down that route. So good job. Bear says, why do you avoid guitar beats? They all sound very similar to me. I feel like once you review one, you reviewed them all. A lot of times it's just a guitar and a trap drum pattern over top. And that's pretty much it. It's just like a 4-bar loop a lot of the times. And then nothing really happens beyond that. So I feel like you review one, you review them all at that point. And I also want to push you guys to do something a little bit different. I want to push you guys to try out different styles and really grow your tool set. And so if you're doing what is in style right now, which is guitar type beats, and that's all you ever do, you're sort of limiting the skill sets that you're going to acquire just because you're doing one specific thing that's already in vogue, that's already in style, and that might hamper your ability to progress in some other important skills that you'll need. So that's it. Zenz, the sexy man himself, is in here. Ian McKay's in here. Jerome Kerr. We're just doing shout outs like a radio DJ. I don't know why I'm doing this. This is only interesting for the people that are hearing their names. So let's keep it going. Eric Martin, where do we submit beats? Put on your glasses and read over here. Or is it over here? I can't remember which way I'm looking. It is this way. Instructions are right here. Let's listen to some beats from you guys. Let's see who some of your favorite artists are. We got a decent amount of submissions here. Someone chose Russ. That's very interesting. Let's listen to Veramist. His beat, his favorite artist is Russ. He's got this Travis Scott type beat called Utopia Gates. Let's take a listen. All right, that was Veramist. He's in the chat, I saw. That's the first time I've heard his beat. I will say that I really love that beat through and through. I can't really think of any fault or anything that I would say needs improvement with the beat. The mix was perfect. Everything sounded perfectly clean. Everything sat in its perfect place, in my opinion. The sound selection was excellent in terms of the drums that were chosen and the guitar. Obviously, like you guys heard, I don't like guitar type beats, but I think the way it was done here wasn't like some emo, moody type of thing. It was like a very he took those textures and made it really unique, and sort of did the whole reverse guitar type of thing, and really helped those sounds stand out. Cool little details in this beat as well. The way you played with the crash and the open hi-hat, and they sort of danced around each other at certain points. That was cool. In the chat, Problem Child mentioned that. Did I turn my mic? Yeah, my mic's on. Problem Child mentioned that he wanted more layers in the beat. I personally think this was a well done, perfectly crafted beat, honestly. There were some people that said that it got somewhat repetitive. To me, this is a perfect type of beat to actually send to an artist and get placed. Like, this is a very placeable, if that's an actual word, beat that if I made this, I would feel really confident sending this to an artist. Just because such a good space was created for the artist. I could imagine someone actually rapping on this. The way the instruments were placed, you had the guitars set up a little bit further back. The drums are on point, so there's just such good space for an artist to actually use this. There wasn't an unneeded, unnecessary amount of like additional layers going in and out. And sometimes beat making can be a pissing contest to see, oh, watch these crazy little production techniques that I use in this beat and these crazy switch ups. And those can be counter to an artist's intention. At that point, a lot of artists, they want their space to be open and expressive and do what they want with a beat. And a lot of the times when you start adding little details and you start pushing things to go in your direction, you're sort of forcing that artist to go along with you. And at times an artist, if they don't feel like they want to go in that direction in terms of what your overall arrangement's doing or how many switch ups you're doing at like throughout the entire beat, sometimes a rapper just wants to rap 16 bars and go into a hook. And I think what this beat did was it just did not, the artist here, the producer, Vermist, they had an intention on, I'm going to do what's best for the artist and not just try to show off. And I think that really showed here. Just an amazingly crafted beat. Well done to Vermist. And I look forward to hearing some more of his beats, because that was, just like DF Obama says, simplicity is key. Good job on that beat. He's inspired by you. Excellent. I think you can make a vocal video about this topic, about leaving room and the mentality of pressing rappers. Yeah, I think one of the things that a lot of people do nowadays is building beats around vocals. I think that's a really smart way to produce, just because you're forcing yourself to actually consider, space, and it gives you a lot better idea of how much is too much and how much is an adequate amount of space. So, that's something I definitely struggled with when I first started. I just wanted to show off all these cool little techniques and switch ups and like make my beats really dense. And then I found time and time again the ones that the artist actually ended up using were just like simple loops. I didn't have too much going on in them, but they were really potent in terms of like the idea or the feeling that I was trying to portray. And they didn't necessarily have to achieve that through like crazy amounts of production. It was just like the sounds that I chose were very simple. They're very direct. They did their job. And I didn't want to sort of force anything above and beyond that. So, good job to Vermist. Very sexy beat. Russ would be proud of you since he's your favorite artist. Andreas says he did the same thing for his subject line. He put, "Who is your favorite rapper?" I want to know who your favorite rapper actually is. That's what the intention there was. I was about to say there's a lot of rappers in here, but obviously if I ask you who your favorite rapper is, you're going to put rap artists. Here we go. Let's listen to, Trent Lee says Simon Servita is his favorite artist. So this is for the memory of Simon Servita. He's up there in heaven right now making beats. So he's not dead, guys. I'm just horsing around. Let's listen to this beat, hard hip hop beat by Trent Lee. I hope I pronounced that right. Let's get into it. All right, all right. That was Trent Lee's beat called Hard Hip Hop Beat. By the way, Simon is not dead. I need to. I think I hurt a lot of feelings when I said that. He is very much alive. I was just being a stupid idiot when I said that. Shout out to Simon. He's a good fella, a happy fella, and good dude. Who's in here? How's it going? Internet Face is in here. One of you guys said I look like a goon. That was very hurtful. So in terms of this beat, there's some things that you guys in this chat said that I picked up and also agree with you. Like Fishy and Ganzi said, playing around with space is a little bit what's required in this beat. Like I mentioned in that video I put out a few weeks back about the 5 red flags that I see in most beats. This beat was one of the flags that I mentioned was just a flatness, and I think that's what's happening in this beat. Like you guys mentioned in the chat, some degree of reverb is going to be needed in order to create some sort of depth in this beat, just because everything was really immediate. So like taking one of those sounds and maybe pushing it back into the middle ground or the background, and just starting to play with where things sit in the fore and background, that would be really helpful. I think another thing that might help with this beat is that there was a bit lacking in the mid-range in terms of frequency space. I think the 808 filled up the low end, and a lot of the instruments that were chosen in this beat were sort of like toy sounds, really cutesy sounds that were really high-end, very bright, very existing in the higher frequencies. And I sort of felt like there was something missing in the mid-range, and it's not necessarily an instrument that needs to be playing all the time, but something in there here and there, maybe a transition sound or maybe like a short little chord could play here and there, or maybe even taking one of those sounds and pitching it an octave down, or using halftime and bringing the frequency space of some sounds down. That might have helped with the balance in the beat. So yeah, I think the biggest takeaway with this beat was just the spaces that were required to fill up were not full. In terms of the frequency space, you had a good amount in the low end and the very, very high end. I think some in the middle might have helped. And as well, pushing some sounds into the background, pushing a little bit further using reverb or delay. I think that would help with this beat and really make it sound a lot more robust and a lot more I guess complete, if that's what we're talking about. Yamiko says that's the vocals in the mid. The vocals could sit in the mid for sure. That's the sort of thought that I had. But even just on the production side, you don't necessarily need a sound. That's why I mentioned you don't need a sound constantly throughout the mid. But you'd be depending on the rapper at that point to have a very gravelly, lower type of voice. Like imagine a very high-pitched rapper using this type of beat like Kendrick or something. I think that would get very obnoxious really quickly, just because all the instruments are very high-pitched and his voice, relatively speaking, can be high-pitched. So at that point, you're sort of hoping that the rapper has a deeper tone to his voice. Yeah. That's my that was my takeaway, but good production. I really liked how you tried to be audacious with the key switch up. You sort of had this bright, happy, polished sound, and then you sort of transitioned to like a little bit more of aggressive type of feel. That was a really cool technique. That's something that can be really difficult, so well done on that. It's just some of those things that I mentioned might be things that could help this beat, and maybe thinking about the different types of spaces that you need to fill as a producer, that could help you as well. All right, let's here we go. I enjoy Denzel Curry, and Damon says that's his favorite rapper. So let's listen to Damon's beat here, a Denzel Curry beat called Phantom Energy. Whoa, let's take a listen. Let me know what you guys think about the beat in the chat. I'll update the keywords soon, but nonetheless, let me know if you guys like this new system, by the way, of just putting the keyword in the chat so you guys don't have to ask every 30 seconds. I think this is a good way of doing it. All right, here we go. All right, that was Damon's beat, Phantom Energy. Really cool beat. So my thoughts on it. So a lot of people in the chat are saying that melody was hard. They really liked it. The 808 sounded great. Clean transitions. So distortion and beats quality. Solid, says Lilok Beats. So I would say that really cool sound selection in this beat. I really like that main loop. I'm not sure whether that's just like a loop that if you came up with that loop, it's a really cool sound. I really love those types of beats where like I have no idea what the instrument is that's even playing. But even if you did use a loop, I think you did it in an interesting way here. The mix was really clean. The drums and the 808s really stood out. If I were making this beat, I might have just brought up the main loop a little tiny bit. The drums and the 808 were at a good level. I think the overall balance in terms of different sounds could have been shifted a little bit in terms of bringing up the loop. I think the big thing in terms of the production technique that I would have implemented with this beat. So with the loop, it was very consistent. So the main melodic component that was driving the overall musicality in this beat was the 808. It had like the progression, whereas the main loop was just a very consistent tone. It wasn't necessarily musical. And that's not a bad thing by any means, but I would say that what I probably would have done was just layered an additional instrument, just like one additional instrument in this beat, and have it follow what the 808's doing, just to help supplement the sort of melodic movement, the progression of this beat. Just because as of right now, the only thing that was the driving force of this beat in terms of the musicality was the 808. And so, yeah, I find that personally, whenever I make beats like this, it can feel like the 808's sort of, it can get drowned out or sort of lost in translation in terms of having your bass be the driving force of the musicality. Grabbing an additional instrument can really help with that, and you can also play smaller notes to help like lead from one note to another, if that makes good sense or makes sense here. But other than that though, great beat. I really loved the sound selection. I really liked the feel to the beat, the energy of it. Yeah, good job to Damon here. Where is he at? Is he in the chat? Is he hiding right now? Thank you, Ian McKay and Ryan. Hopefully that explanation made sense. That's like a thought that that's something that's always in my head when I'm making beats, but it's really hard to actually translate it in a way that sort of makes sense. It's just, yeah, hopefully you guys understood. Like the loop in this beat was very consistent. It wasn't like very musical. And so whenever you have one part of your beat be very consistent, that's sort of like when an arp sound would be. Yeah, it does jump up and down, but throughout the entire 4-bar loop, for example, if you just do the exact same 4 notes up and down over and over again, the sort of average consistent through line is just one straight note. And so at that point, you need the other instruments to sort of jump up and down around it to create some sort of melodic movement in the beat. And that's sort of what that's what this loop was doing as well. It wasn't the sort of melodic driving component in this beat. It was just more so straight in terms of its musicality. And so the 808 was used as a melodic component to drive a sort of feeling. It had that da 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 progression. And so to sort of help supplement that a little bit more, to help fill out the beat and sort of create another element that also helps drive a melodic, the melodic component to this beat, just adding an additional instrument and sort of playing what the 808's also doing. Or even if you want to do something a little bit different, I think that could help bring a little bit more musicality into this beat. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense. We have been going for half an hour, so we'll do one more of these keywords. Snot. Who's Snot? Oh, Martin put me as his favorite artist. I see what you're trying to do there. Naughty, naughty. Listen to Snot. Who's Snot? I've never heard of the Snot rapper, but let's take a listen to this beat here by Nick Gear. Nick Gear. Nick is Mango. Let's take a listen to this beat. Man pours himself. Oh, it's Kenny Beats sample flip. All right, here we go. So that was Nick's beat. So I think this is actually a good example of exactly what I was talking about last time. The main sound in this beat was just that guy yelling. It wasn't necessarily a melodic sound. It was just like a repeating thing that happened over and over again. And so in this instance, something that needs to drive the melody here would be the 808. So that's exactly sort of similar type of thing that I was just pointing out last time. Really cool in terms of the textures. I really love these types of beats. I don't know why. It's almost like a novelty beat where it's just like, it makes me want to just get violent. And this is a very divisive beat, it looks like. Some people really liked it, other people didn't. I think it's just, yeah, I think OTG says Kendrick all over this. This is like a very unique, idiosyncratic type of beat. Some people are going to like it, some people don't. I happen to enjoy it. Well done, Nick. Nick woke up and chose violence. In terms of what I can really say about this, the beat was only a minute long, and that's sort of the difficulty when it comes to making these types of beats where you're not really making something that's driven by musicality. You're making something that's sort of somewhat driven by novelty. It's just this weird beat where just a guy yelling and you have your 808 pattern and your cool percussion sounds all around it. The challenge becomes, how do you make a beat that's 3 minutes long and is still entertaining. It still works throughout the entire thing, and that might be a reason why your beat was only a minute long. The thing that I would have liked to see is how you would have figured out how to make this a 3 minute long beat and had enough variation to the point where it's still interesting. The idea that you have here, it was cool. I really enjoyed it, but I would have liked to see what you could do if you tried to push this all the way. And if you do make the choice to try that yourself, I think you'll learn a lot in terms of taking a loop and making it into a full beat. But yeah, very cool production on just the minute that I heard here. Very well done. This is honestly something I would enjoy making. And yeah, cool beat, Nicolas. Let's do the next keyword, dudes. So I'm in the Discord right now. I'm typing away. And I'm going to put... What's the next question I should put? So last time I did favorite album, favorite... Here we go. Here we go. I don't think I asked this, even though it's really obvious. There we go. New keyword is in. You guys scurry into the Discord to get that new keyword. Meanwhile, I'm going to listen to another Discord beat. Hopefully you guys are doing well on this lovely Sunday. Let's listen to Jokia. Last time, the track got absolutely wrecked in the review because it was bad, but he's learned a lot. So let's listen to Jokia's beat here. Cash Bandicoot. That's an interesting name. All right, that was Cash Bandicoot. Soren says using the Flex 808s is what all the kids are doing nowadays. Yeah, I'm like Ian McKay. I don't really use Flex. Maybe I should take a look in there. I got all that stuff in my FL waiting for me, and I never use it. So with this beat, the 808 was a bit off. I think that's the biggest culprit here. So two things that were sort of my big takeaways. I don't want to get too much into like the bigger arrangements and making things a little bit more interesting, getting to the smaller details, just because it sounds like with Cash Bandicoot here, he might be just starting, so I don't want to get too in the weeds with certain production techniques. One thing that I'll say is that the 808 felt like it could have taken up more space. It was a very short, punchy 808, and with the main instrument, there wasn't much going on outside of that. So in terms of how you're going to approach filling up the beat, if you're not going to use other instruments to try to fill up more space in the beat, you can, I think at that point you should maybe think about taking your 808 and maybe prolonging it so it takes up more space, or maybe distorting it so it takes up more space in a different way. Just doing something to make the 808 do a little bit more of the heavy lifting, just because this production here felt a little bit sparse. So I think the beat needed to be filled up fundamentally one way or another. So if you want to do it with your 808, that could be a way, or you want to introduce something else into this beat, that might be another thing to consider. I think I just started a civil war in here. If you don't have Flex, you're pirating. Naughty, naughty pirates. A lot of people are getting into it. Sublab, I hear, is really good. So I just use one-shots for my 808, just packs that I got off of Splice, and then I just distort them myself. I used to make my own 808s. I really do enjoy doing that, but I haven't done that in a while. Anyways, back to this beat. I think that's my one point with filling up the beat. Additionally, with the hook section, you had that layer come in during the hook, and it played the exact same thing that the main melody was playing. So essentially, and it was such a huge sound that just for the hook, it almost felt like you had this one musical component throughout the entire verse, and then the hook came, and then you had this overpowering sound, and did the exact same thing that the other sound was doing. So it didn't necessarily feel like anything was added. It almost felt like you just swapped one sound for another, because essentially that is what's happening when you layer. You're just taking your sound and you're changing the tonality of it. You're just making it sound a little bit different. So it didn't necessarily feel like the energy level of the beat went up during the hook, just because there were no actual new notes being played. There was nothing new. It was just the exact same thing, just with a tonally different sound. So if you want to add a new sound into your hook layer or in your hook section, and you want to be a little bit more substantial and actually do the job of like bringing up the energy, I think you'll need to do something different musically speaking than what's already in the beat. So that's one way of doing it, or just, you know, picking up the drums or doing something, adding more notes and doing it in different ways than what you did here would be a better job, or a better way of accomplishing what you're trying to do, instead of just taking what you have exactly already, copying and pasting the MIDI notes over, and then just calling it a day. I think, yeah, you'll need to do something a bit more or a bit different in order to have it actually feel like a hook section and bring the energy level up. Can I do a video about hating? What's going on in this chat? Do I need to bring down some ban hammers, or how not to be a hater? I have a very specific thought about hating, or what haters do and feel. I grew up around haters. I don't talk to them anymore, but haters are necessary, so we know how not to act. Yeah, I think, let's do some philosophy here for a second. The people that I grew up with that sort of ended up going down that road, I think everyone, when they go through, or they get presented with those emotions, all of us feel those emotions that haters feel. We'll call them haters. All the people feel those types of things, of whether it's jealousy or resentment or what's another word I'm thinking of here? You know, when you idealize another person, you think, why don't I have that? Everyone has those feelings. Like when you see someone, I definitely did when I was younger. When I would see a producer succeed and I was just like struggling at that time and I wasn't really making anything that was like, in my opinion, good enough, you know, it's almost like a punch to the stomach. You're like, as soon as you see someone else succeed, that's instantly a reflection or a reminder of like your own personal state of where you are right now. And it really makes you feel like you're beneath. It makes you feel like you're low on the hierarchy, or you're low on the totem pole. Your worth is less than another person's, and it's like a reminder of how far away you are from where you want to be. And you get those feelings, and it can be really easy. Different people deal with those emotions in different ways. Some people are going to be very productive about those feelings. They're going to accept it and say, you know what, this person has succeeded. I haven't. What are they doing that I'm not doing? They're going to take that approach and be like, okay, I need to be a little bit more productive with how I'm going to deal with these emotions. Because again, everyone feels the same things. It's just how you deal with it is going to be the differentiating factor. So some people are going to look at that and say, okay, maybe I need to do something different. Maybe I need to really pick things up. Maybe I need to think about what I'm doing wrong, what this person's doing right. And that could be considered a more productive way of dealing with those emotions. Other people are going to say, you know what, that person's doing something that I just can't. I'm not going to be able to do what they're doing. But you know what, that person's really great at that thing. I'm actually really great at this other thing. So maybe I should try to go down this road and do something a little bit different. So these are a little bit more productive ways of, I think, dealing with those emotions. Envy, my brain wasn't working. Thank you, Soren. Envy. The less productive ways and how a hater's mind works is basically looking at that person who has succeeded, looking at the person who is doing well, who is up here. And when you get reminded that you're down here, what a hater does essentially is start believing things in order to bring that person's status down and their own status up. And so they'll start convincing themselves of stories of, oh, that person, they're only successful because they got lucky. I'm actually a better producer than that person, but you know what? That person's just lucky. The reason why they got that placement, oh, they probably know this person and that person. If I had connections like that, you know, these types of things where it's less trying to really accept reality, less at looking at yourself, and instead believing in a story that isn't necessarily true, but it just comforts you. It makes you feel good. It lets you off the hook in terms of accepting responsibility in your own path and what you should be doing. Because when you believe that these people that are succeeding are doing so by pure chance, by pure luck, and you're just an unlucky person, well, that's a great thing to believe because it lets you off the hook. You don't have to do anything. You can just blame the world. Meanwhile, you're not actually going to get anywhere. And so a lot of the people who do succeed, in my opinion, a lot of the people who actually do get places, there's this guy named Jocko Willink who talks about this idea of extreme ownership. And this is something that I personally try to do as much as I can. Whenever things go wrong, even if it is outside of my control, I always think, okay, what's the lesson here? What can I learn? What can I take away? And I feel the exact same thing whenever I see other people succeeding. It's less of a reflection of me. I just think, okay, what can I take away from here? What can I learn? And I think the people that adopt those types of mentalities are the ones that actually do better, and they're also just a lot more well balanced. They're the people that you want to be around. Because for me, those people that were haters, that looked at other people and sort of hated how they were a reflection of what they wanted to be and a reminder of where they aren't, that type of mentality, that type of energy starts just seeping all over the place, and they just start talking shit about everyone. They start hating people for things that have like nothing to do with them. They start talking about other people's business, and yeah, it just becomes exhausting. So that's my feelings on haters. And if you do feel those types of emotions, everyone feels them, those feelings of envy and jealousy, just because, you know, that's a reflection of where you should be in your own mind, but where you're not. And it's an active right away it gives you perspective on like this person's up here, and by contrast you're down here, and no one wants to be down there. We all want to feel like we are higher above, like we are actually valuable people. But the people that actually do accept where they are and try to do the daily work of increasing their value, becoming better day in, day out, and actually getting to that level where the other person's at, those are the people that succeed. Whereas the other people who just try to make up stories in terms of bringing the other people's status down in their own mind and actually bringing their own status up, they never actually get anywhere because they're not living in reality. They're basically living in their own head in La La Land. So, yeah, hopefully ITG Blick, that helped you out. I just went on like a 10-minute rant just for your question. Let's listen to some beats now. Here we go. What was my question again? My favorite producer. Lil Ugly Mane. Here we go. JPEG Mafia. This should be an interesting beat. Dylan Dillman. That's a wild name, Dylan. First place beat created for Sample Beat Flip Online. Which beat is it? When do we speak? All right, let's listen to this beat. All right, that was Dylan Dillman. When do we speak? A Lil Ugly Mane JPEG Mafia fan there. People really like this beat. A lot of flame emojis. Lots of happy faces watching right now. Not meant for a rapper. This is a straight up flex beat. I could see a rapper figure out a way to get on this if it was mixed a bit differently. Obviously right now everything's really turned up to 100, but like with a JPEG Mafia type of mix on this beat where things are weakened a little bit purposely, I could see someone like JPEG Mafia using this beat. Ian McKay says too short. Someone asked why I'm wearing a hoodie. My hair is a mess right now because I didn't comb it. Well, my face is like halfway off the stream. You guys should have told me. I should be over here. Hold on, let me... There we go. There we go. Let's see what's happening with my hair. Actually, that's not too bad. All right. Hoodie's off, guys. My review of the beat. Whereas my window... My review of the beat, I really love the attention to detail with this beat. Like, there's so many small little things that were happening that just really elevated this beat and brought a lot of complexity, but in such a well-produced way where it wasn't just for the sake of let me overcomplicate things, like the little Foley sounds that you were using as percussion noises and panning them into different spaces. I thought that just really, really did a great job of creating a lot of presence in a unique way. The production itself, really cool. I like that sort of false start that you had at the very beginning of the beat. Oh, sexy hair. Thank you. Oh, you guys are flirting with me. You guys make me feel so loved. Yeah, I would have loved to hear like a full version of this beat. I think it would have been cool if like the very beginning of this beat, the first like minute, it was like very aggressive and I think it would be a cool switch up to like have it go into like a little bit more of a melodic phase. This is just me thinking in terms of like my own producer hat, what I would have done with this beat if I was making it. But nonetheless, I would have loved to hear this full idea expanded out, Dylan. I think what you have here is really well done. Sounds like you know what you're doing when it comes to making beats, because this is a very, with the amount of attention to detail in this beat, I think you have a good conception of how to put sounds together and how to bring an idea out with your production styles. I'm really curious to hear how your full beat would sound. So Dylan Dillman, there he is in the chat. Hopefully he's happy with that review. Da 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 da. Karasama says he wants more likes in this chat. I don't think it really matters how many people like my stream. And honestly, I sort of like it when the level of people that are in here right now, I'm enjoying it. I don't really stress too much about the live stream numbers. I do want my videos to actually make it to a lot of people. But these live streams, these are just more so for the people that are already subscribed. I don't really necessarily look for new people to come in, even though a lot of you guys are probably new. Yeah, I feel like this is more so just hanging out with the people that are with me. A lot of you guys in the chat have been with me for a very long time, and I want to thank you guys. You guys are lovely people. And so these live streams are just for like the guys that are just been here for a while, the guys and gals that have been with me, and just to hang out. Whoa, Microsoft account problem. We need to fix your Microsoft account. Whatever. All right, let's listen to this next beat here by Martin Gutovsky. White Armor, Young Sherman. Personally, I'm a fan of Young Good. He's my favorite young lean producer, but nonetheless, I'm a fan of that whole style. So let's listen to Martin's beat here. Let me know in the chat what you guys think about this beat. We've been streaming for an hour. We're at the halfway point. Grout is not here. I was supposed to talk to him, so maybe Grout, if you're here, let me know, because we have some business to discuss, my friend. Martin's beat, here we go. All right, that was Martin's beat. I don't even know, something about this beat isn't working, but I'm not sure what it is. For one, there's no like prominent kick in this beat, so that was one thing that was throwing me off. It felt like there was just so much movement and so much busyness with a lot of like the melodic parts of the beat. I think fundamentally what this beat would need is just like 20 to 30% of what's happening in here just sort of get thrown out just because it's so busy and there's so many moving parts all happening, and sometimes things move in a good way together, other times things move apart in a bad way. And so it's just this constant feeling of like, okay, things are starting to connect, things are starting to work, and then other times everything would just completely go in different ways that didn't really make sense musically speaking. So I sort of feel like stripping down this idea. I did feel like there were some good ideas in here. I really like the textures in this beat, but I do feel like taking some of the more audaciously melodic parts and maybe simplifying them and really have things go in a more simplistic way might have helped this beat. Yeah, I think a lot of people, yeah, Gary says he needs a kick. The drums were a little bit wacky, but nonetheless, I sort of feel like things weren't really working well with each other just because everything was sort of competing. Nothing really. I think one thing is no one sound felt like it was the driving force of this beat. Everything felt like it was trying to stand out and be very complex and very like in that video that I talked about, I put out last September or so about getting your beats to sound professional. You really do need to choose one sound to be the spotlight, the main focus of the sound, and have everything else be supplemental. And that's not only true in a mixing context, but also just like musically speaking. Having your synth be super melodic, super crazy and out there, that's fine, but as long as you sort of counterbalance that with some other elements in your beat being a little bit more simple. You can't sort of go into every single element of your beat and try to push maximum musicality, try to make things as melodic as possible, because I sort of feel like that's exactly what happens in this beat. If you're gonna choose your synth and be super melodic, super all over the place, maybe being a little bit more straightforward with your 808 pattern is going to be a good idea. Being a little bit more straightforward with your drum pattern, really minimizing the amount of sounds, just so there's one part that's really complex, and that's going to be the sound that's in your spotlight, and everything else becomes more secondary. I think that might have helped with this beat. So that's my main takeaway. In the chat, I saw there's this fella by the name of Ultra G. I'll tell you guys a little story about him. He's someone I used to work with probably 15 years ago. It was my first job after high school, and I was working to pay up for university. And he was someone that I worked with, and he's probably one of the people. There are a lot of people in my life that came and went that like influenced my musical taste, like my older brother for one of my older cousins. Ultra was probably one of the people that I would definitely point to as saying he was someone who showed me music that really opened up my mind. He's the one that showed me like Dilla and Madlib and these guys. And as you guys can see in a lot of my YouTube videos, I have a poster of Dilla in like every single one at the intro. Dilla was one of the reasons why I started to make beats. I remember I bought the Rough Draft EP and I read the booklet back when you could still buy CDs. And in there it said something along the lines of, I only made this CD because I just made this for me. I wanted to listen to some shit in my own truck, and so I made this album for that. And that was a really cool idea to me, because at that point I felt like I was getting really bored of a lot of beats. A lot of music felt the same to me, and this idea of why don't I just make stuff for myself, that sort of popped into my head once I read that. And Dilla was an inspiration in that way, and really that's sort of around the time when I started taking beat making more seriously. And I sort of got into him because of Ultra. So I don't know if he's still in here, but if he is one of the reasons why I'm ultimately here in some way, in some shape or form. So how old am I? I am 32. Can't remember my age sometimes, but yes, I am a 32-year-old boy. ITB says he's got a question. Hit me with it, and I will go on to the next beat. I'm going to listen to this guy's beat because he's got the same favorite producer as me. Alchemist is my all-time favorite producer, and Ryan has the exact same producer as his favorite, so I'm going to take a listen. right, that was Rayon's beat, a boom bap-esque type beat. Blick in the chat says he's having trouble making beats because he stopped smoking weed. For me, I purposely made sure. I actually only started smoking or trying to smoke when I was like 27. That was like the first time, or 25. That was the first time I smoked. 25 or 26. And I don't really do it that often even now. And I never wanted to do it and tie that to beat making for the exact same reason why I don't drink coffee in the morning. I've never drank coffee in my life. I just don't like the idea of creating dependencies like this. The idea that, okay, in order to do A, I have to do B first. In order to do B, I have to do C first. Like, I want to be able to be as flexible and productive as possible whenever I can at the drop of a dime. Can't even speak English. So yeah, I think for me, I never really smoked weed in order to make beats because of this exact same situation. If I ever felt like I needed weed in order to make beats, that would be a mental trap that I didn't want to fall into. And so if I figured out a way in which I could make good beats sober, then I'm golden. I can make a good beat at any time. So obviously you said you've only been sober and trying to do this without weed for a week now. It might be a few months. It's going to be a little while before you sort of figure out what works for you while you're sober, and a workflow or a sort of pattern of thinking or a level of openness to your thoughts. It might take a while, but nonetheless, once you do get to that point, which you obviously will, it's not like the weed was a thing that somehow was bringing these ideas into your brain. Those ideas are in there somewhere. It's just oftentimes when you're sober, maybe you're thinking about, oh, I gotta take my dog out for a walk, or oh, my girl's fighting with me. Just figuring out a way to sort of clear up your mind without needing drugs. Once you do get to that point, it might take a while again, but once you do get there, you won't need any dependencies or any other substance in order to make good beats. It just might take a while. In terms of this beat review, I like the sample. I like the way you chopped it. It was a good job of chopping the sample here. I think a lot of the times producers will go overboard and like put millions of different chops just for the sake of it. I would say that the way the chops were done here, they were very fluid. It still sounded musical, so good job on that front. I think things around the sample could have been improved. A lot of the people in the chat, like Anton mentioned, the drum pattern wasn't very didn't really work well, and I think a lot of the elements in terms of the drum selection, I think didn't really work well. They were sort of trappier, brighter, cleaner, polished drums. And I think a lot of times for these beats to work, you do need to fit into the aesthetic of what the sample's doing. The sample is a sort of old school type of gritty, grimy type of sound, and sort of pair that with very clean, polished, trappier types of drums. That might not be the best. What I probably would have done here was just chop up a drum break and use those drum sounds. And maybe those trap drums are sounds that you can layer underneath those just for more utilitarian purposes. But in terms of the aesthetic portion of your drums, using drum breaks that really do fit into this aesthetic is going to be a better idea. In terms of how you program the drums, I think that was another issue here. You had everything very rhythmically uniform. So you had kick, snare, kick, snare, kick, snare. And it's just like that for over and over again. And with the bass, you had the kick and the bass play at the exact same time. So it was like bass, snare, blank, snare, bass, snare. So rhythmically speaking, it was essentially like a 1-bar loop that did the exact same thing over and over again. And every single time you had like a change in your... every single time you had a bass note, you had a kick note, which isn't inherently a bad thing, but eventually it became very predictable. So you might want to play around with the amount of variation you had with the rhythmic components in your beat. Don't have everything just be on the exact grid, following the exact thing constantly over and over for the entire beat. The drums are a great opportunity to play around with, adding some rhythmic variation. and you know, play around with taking your drums and maybe having something different occur in the third bar compared to the first bar. Don't just be satisfied with making a 1 bar loop and having that play throughout the entire thing. Drums are a very malleable, easy way to play around with rhythm. Obviously, you don't want to go too overboard and do something completely different every single bar. That's something that I mentioned in the video I put out earlier this month about the 5 red flags of most beats. They are the way you create consistency with your rhythm, but nonetheless, you can play around with shifting certain notes here and there throughout like a 4-bar loop in order to create some better variation, which I think is what is needed with this beat. Victor says, came for the beat critique, left with life advice. Yeah, I'm hoping to do a few more of these like mental model types of videos where I just sort of teach you guys some of the things, or not teach, but like talk to you guys about some of the things that I use whenever I'm not feeling productive, whenever I'm not feeling like I don't want to do anything. Just the short little things I have in my brain that really like ideas or like sayings or idioms that I can use to really get myself into it, and really also adopting sort of long-term types of thinking where I don't get caught up. The next video, I'm not sure if I'm going to put it out this Tuesday, but the next type of video like that is going to be on beat block and my my own personal way of dealing with it. And once I did come up with this strategy or this way of thinking, like I never have to face that problem anymore. So hopefully it's something that you guys also will be able to benefit from. Someone's been asking me my ethnicity for Cal Drago keeps asking me what my ethnicity is and that I look like some Indian guy. I'm not gonna answer what my ethnicity is. All right. Let's go with some. Oh, here we go. I'm gonna listen to this beat here from this fan of DJ Dahi. I love DJ Dahi. I haven't heard many of his beats recently though. I wonder what he's been up to. Anyways, Sue's beat by it's a Kendrick Lamar, J. Cole, Jay-Z type beat. Bad Santas. Sue, let's listen to what you got here. And I'm giving Sue the smooth fade out there because this beat's 5 minutes long. All right, with this beat here, first off, congrats to Kemi. He got a 10 on one of his tests. He's been studying, so good job to Kemi on achieving your dreams. This beat was very well done. I think you guys can hear the difference between this beat and the drum selection compared to the last one. This one really did fit into that aesthetic. Is my mic on? Did I forget to turn it on? It is on. So yeah, it really fits into the aesthetic, and it really blended well with the type of genre that Sue was trying to make, and I think that's part of the reason why this worked so well. Very J. Cole-esque, which is exactly what he was going for, so good job on that front. The way the samples were used in this beat were very well done. It can be very difficult to have that sort of collage-like approach where you're not necessarily taking your sounds, or it sounded like he's taking multiple samples, different parts from those samples, and really tying everything together with his creation that he already had in this beat. I think he did a really good job on doing that. That can be a very difficult sampling technique to actually do. That's what Pete Rock used to do a lot back in the days, but I think he did a very good job of doing that. Prod Sean says, rate the beats out of 10. I prefer not to, just because, you know, if you're just someone who's starting out and you just got played right after someone who's been making beats for like 10 years, if I give you like a 2 or a 3, you know, that's not really fair, because where you are in your own path is going to be very different, or where you are in your stage of your career is going to be very different. And so if I say something like, well, that's a 3 out of 10 beat, you know, for being 2 or 3 months into beat making, my beats sucked ass. And so if this person makes a beat that's better than what I used to do at that point, that should be like an 8 in terms of the context. So that's sort of the reason why I stay away from giving numbers, just because it doesn't really take into consideration where the person is in their beat career. Anyways, back to this beat. I think what was really smartly done with this beat was that a lot of times when people try to do this technique of taking multiple samples and trying to fit them into their beat, they have a really hard time, because musically speaking, it can be hard to figure out, okay, this part of the sample doesn't necessarily tie into what's happening with what I've already created, and just becomes like a sort of feeling like you're crowbarring in samples that don't really work. What was really smartly done with this beat that I think is a really good takeaway is that the samples and the parts that were used to create this sort of collage, they were just short stabs of brief momentary notes. And so you don't have to worry about like tons of different musical components being played if you try to extract and use a sample that's like very dense and has a sort of very layered arrangement. These are just like short little notes here and there of just like a sort of vocal sample, or like these small little horn sounds, or I'm not even sure what they were. But nonetheless, they were very simple components that were extracted and used to create this sort of collage. So that made his job a lot easier, and that's why this beat worked so well. And on top of that, musically speaking, it wasn't this huge complicated melody that he had to sort of tie everything into. With his bass pattern, which was sort of the main component in terms of the driving force that he created in this beat, there's just a sort of simple 2-note progression for the most part. He did have fills here and there, but it wasn't this huge thing where you had like 8 different bass notes that were just playing over the span of like a 2-bar loop. It was just a simple up and down type of progression, and so that's going to make his job a lot easier to tie in all the different samples, because there's just a lot less to worry about now. So those are things that you can consider when you're trying to be audacious with your sampling technique. Building a framework that's built on simplicity will make your job a lot easier when you're trying to sort of take different samples and build on top of that, because there's just obviously more stability. There's less things, less movement that you have to worry about, and you can just take different pieces from your sample and figure out ways to tie them into what you've created, just because it's going to be so much easier to do since it's just a layer of simplicity musically speaking. Those are some good things that were done with this beat. As Sue might have noticed, a lot of people in the chat were saying it got a little bit repetitive, so I think that might be something that you might need to explore with this beat. How to keep it interesting, because this beat's like 5 minutes long, and you did have switch ups here and there with that sort of drum fill and dropping drums here and there. I think you'll need to make more substantial changes and figure out ways to keep this beat a little bit more interesting in different ways and more substantial ways. But nonetheless, great production techniques were shown in this beat. Well done, man. Well done. Right, here we go. Let's listen to someone who I don't necessarily listen to it that often. Someone put Timberland. It's Timbaland. Muaz put me as the best producer. I see what you're doing. Don't think you can ingratiate yourself with me, young man. You know what, let's listen to this Nick Mira beat. I pray that this is not a guitar type beat. If it is, I'm shutting it off right away. K-Social Beats. His guy was Nick Mira, a wavy C minor beat. Let's take a listen.
K-Social got that heat, boy.
K-Social. I gotta give you the smooth fade out there. Yeah, as you can see, a lot of people in the chat are saying the 808 here was a huge culprit that really sunk the beat here. It was just really loud, very full, just really overpowered the beat. Nonetheless, and also the way it was programmed, it was just constantly playing, and I would have really minimized what the amount of 808s that were in this beat. It was pretty much doing the exact same thing that one of your instruments was doing. So melodically speaking, it wasn't really contributing that much because it was following what another instrument was doing. Obviously, that's not a bad thing. So in that respect, it wasn't a sort of driving component in this beat. It just filled out the low end. And just with the amount of 808s that you did use, it was completely unnecessary to use that many 808s. So just reeling back on your 808, the amount of 808s in here, as well as how present and how full this 808 is, would help this beat out. And I think there are some other leveling issues, but it was just hard to pick up on exactly what was going on in this beat, just because the 808 was just so overpowering. So that was my big takeaway. Just be a little bit more conservative with your 808 and how present it is, and also with the pattern. Should I do a new keyword? I'm enjoying this one here. I like seeing who your favorite beat makers are. Shamana. Is that the... Shamana, is that the guy that made SoundCloud? I need to look this up real quick. Hold on, guys. Oh yeah. Shamana's a great beat maker. If you guys have not heard this beat called SoundCloud by Shamana, that was, I think, my number one beat of on the Spotify year in review. That was like the number one thing. So I'm interested in hearing this beat. Confused Boy Beats. Here we go.
You look confused, boy.
All right, that was Confused Boy Beats. Yeah, the mix was clean. Vibe says the mix was clean. I agree. I think some of the things that I like in this beat, the drums were very clean, just like Vibe says there. I think the takeaway I have here, though, is that I would have liked for the violin, the string stabs, to just take up more room. Not necessarily in terms of the overall volume, although I do feel like the drums were very loud compared to the other elements in this beat. I think just taking the other components and making them more present would have helped. You had this sort of atmospheric sound way in the back. I think maybe bringing the volume of that might have helped, or even just adding more reverb or delay or some sort of unique effect like Supermassive on top of your strings, just to help them take up a little bit more room. Might have been a good idea, just because this beat felt a bit minimal, which isn't a bad thing, but when you do take a road of simplicity with your beat in terms of the number of components in it, you still do need to do a good job of thinking about those components spatially in terms of stereo space, frequency space, and depth. Those are always going to be the three components that you need to think about. And I think this beat could have been helped by just adding a little bit more depth into it. So that's something that you might consider, but nonetheless, I think you did a good job of tying all the different sounds together, and your drums are very nice. A lot of people in the chat said they enjoyed it. So yeah, good job to Confused Boy Beats. I'm a big fan of Shamana. I didn't know he was on anyone else's radar, so that's cool. By the way, I want to mention to you guys, after this stream, I just remembered that I plan on uploading the first 12 videos of my course onto the platform. So this might be a good idea to remind you guys that if you find yourselves struggling making beats, if you find yourselves constantly making beats that don't sound how you want them to, and you don't know what you're doing wrong, this is the course that I'm coming out with. That's the focus on it. It's basically, after listening to your guys' beats for so long, and after making beats for 10 plus years now, I've sort of really thought about the constant things that a lot of producers get wrong, and a lot of things that I used to get wrong in terms of production techniques, and small little things that adjustments that I made, or the different perspectives that I've changed that really did help me become such a better beat maker after I've learned them. And so that's sort of the things that this course is going to teach. The biggest things that you can take away in terms of how you can improve your beats. And it's sort of like a troubleshooting type of beat where I go with every single stage of the beat making process, whether that is how to sample, how to build your own loops, how to program better drums, bass lines, how to add in sounds into your beats after the fact. That's something a lot of people struggle with. How to take your loops, make it into a full beat, all these different stages of the beat making process. Everyone has these struggles, these things that they can't get right, and they don't know what exactly they're doing wrong. I basically show at each and every stage of the beat making process what the likely culprit is, and how you can improve to make beats, how you can finally do the things right to actually get your beat to sound how you want it to, and how to make professional level beats fundamentally is what I want to get you guys to. So if you're interested, head over to betterbeatmaker.com. The only the people on the wait list will be getting early access and a discount once I do go public with it. That is not going to be available. So make sure to join up. Ian McKay says, how do you pronounce my name? That's revealed in the course. That's going to be the biggest takeaway in the course. I say my own name in it, so you guys will see how to pronounce my name. So yeah, and it's also a mixing mastering component in the course. I basically show you guys everything that I've learned after sitting with multiple engineers and spending thousands of dollars getting stuff engineered and really watching what these engineers were doing. I show you the process and distill everything down into how to do that yourselves. And I also have a section on marketing. I basically show you guys the techniques and the concepts that I've used in order to grow my own YouTube channel. So if you guys are interested in selling beats and you want to go down the road of the type beat lane, I basically show you guys how to grow your channel, grow an audience, grow a fan base. And I also, part of what you'll get with the course is a premium drum kit, 50 plus loops from some really incredible loop makers, as well as a type beat list. So it basically takes the top 1,000 type beat keyword tags and it ranks them for how big your channel is. So if you're just starting out, I give you recommendations on what types of keywords you should be using in order to start ranking, start getting traffic, and growing your channel. That's basically exactly what I did when I first started my YouTube channel. I basically took smaller keywords, ranked for them. So if you go onto YouTube right now and you type in lo-fi drum patterns, I'm the #1 result. Or if you look up Slice X, I think I'm the #1 or 2 result. And so these are the types of things that I show you guys how to do with your own channels, and I show you the keywords. I basically give you a cheat sheet of the keywords that you should be using if you want to go down that road of selling beats and growing your own platform. So again, if you're interested, betterbeatmaker.com, head over there. I'll type it in the chat right now so you guys can hit the link. And betterbeatmaker.com. Oh, I didn't even URL. Head over there and join the wait list, because only those people will get a juicy discount as well as early access. Let's listen to one more of a favorite producer beat, and then we'll go on to the next keyword. Let's listen. Oh, should I listen to this guy over here, or should I listen to someone else? I don't know. Let's listen to, I'm going to go with a very popular guy who I don't really listen to often, just to keep open-minded. Wheezy. Minecraft OG player has this beat called Napier Delaney. Let's take a listen. All right, that was Minecraft OG player. I assume this is going to be a very divisive beat here. I enjoyed that beat. I have a really a warm place in my heart for 3-6 Mafia, and this is a sort of somewhat of a funkish type of beat. There are elements of it, like Grout mentioned. Shout out to Grout. He is here now. I feel safe once again. It had that sort of the 808 cowbell, which is a sort of staple in funk. I think it depends on what this producer was trying to go for. Oh, he is in the chat. If he is trying to go for a more funk type of feel, I think degrading some of the sounds might be a better idea. I can't remember who mentioned it in the chat, but they said the hi-hat was distracting. It was a very clean, polished, bright hi-hat. And the low end as well, it was very prominent, very clean, very in your face. And so if you are trying to make a funk type of beat and you sort of do want to pursue that aesthetic, you know, taking a lot of the low end out so it's not as clean and punchy, and also taking a lot of the high end out so it's not as bright, and sort of just really constricting the frequency space to be a little bit more in the middle and sort of have that sort of muddy feel to it. I think that's how you achieve that funk aesthetic a little bit better. But nonetheless, I think it was a great job in terms of the production. Some people mentioned that it felt repetitive. To me, I sort of liked it. I think there was enough variation to where I could really imagine a rapper sort of doing like a back and forth type of thing in between the different sections here. I think Minecraft OG player did a good job of picking a really, really cool sample and really making it aggressive and make it a very dark type of aesthetic, which is exactly what funk is all about. So I enjoyed it. Good job to you, young man. I'm a big lover of funk and these 3/6 beats, so yeah, cool job. Go to girl says, can you assist regarding the keyword section, what we need to do there? You don't need to do anything there. That's just where I mentioned what the keyword is. The instructions are right here. I'm just going to type in what you should do for the keyword. Just follow the instructions over there. I type it what the keyword is. You go send your beat to the email and use the answer to that keyword thing as a subject line. Done. Butterscotch asks if I'm from Toronto. I lived there for 7 years, but I moved back home about a year and a half ago now. Grout Dog, you and I have some things to discuss. This stream is gonna go on for another half an hour or so. So after that, hopefully we can link up because I've got some things I need to discuss with you. How often do I do these streams? Typically now I do them every 2 weeks. Once I do open up my course, that's another thing I forgot to mention. I'm going to be doing weekly feedback reviews with course members. So yeah, I want to increase the amount of reviews I do for you guys if you are in my course, because I want to make sure you guys are making progress. Grout Daddy says, for show. You've never used Discord? No apologies needed there. I understand. All right, let's do one more keyword. What should the next keyword be? Something music related, perhaps? Or here's what we'll do. Next keyword coming right up. All right, you guys answer that keyword. Meanwhile, I'm going to go into the Discord and listen to one last Discord beat. This one here, Lollipop, I'm from Poop City, Teenage Dream remix. Let's take a listen. Let me know in the chats what you guys think of this beat. If you're interested in submitting your own beat, follow the instructions right next to me. If you're interested in joining my online course, betterbeatmaker.com, head over to the waitlist. You'll get discount and early access if you are on the waitlist. And let's continue with the beat review. All right, that was a Lollipop. I'm from Poop City. Is his name or something? I'm not sure. It was nice knowing you guys. I will probably be getting banned off of YouTube after that. It's gonna get sued from Teenage Dream themselves. The teenage is gonna come over and beat me up to get my money. With the beat here, a lot of my issues would probably stem from just how dense it is. Like you guys mentioned, the vocals are very large and very upfront, which obviously isn't a bad thing. But the thing is, so many of the other instruments in this beat were just very prominent, very dense, and just took up so much space. Everything felt like it was competing with each other. So if I were to go into this beat, I would probably start reducing a lot of the frequencies from the sounds and really constrict how much space they take in terms of frequency space. Like the chords in this beat were very large. I probably would constrict and reduce how present the chords were in this beat. Same thing with some of the high end. I think I'm not sure, there's like a weird percussion sound that was arpeggiating. Maybe reducing how much frequencies that takes up and maybe pushing it back in terms of its space. Just clearing up more space for those vocals, just because, like you guys mentioned, the vocals were just so big, and yet they were just having a hard time competing with the other parts in this beat. And I think structurally, the beat was at a very high energy level during the verse sections, and so when it did get to the hook, it didn't really feel like that big of a lift up. So I think maybe taking different approaches, or taking a different approach in terms of how the energy, what the energy level is during the verse sections might help. Maybe bringing it down a tiny bit, and maybe some of the things that I already recommended would help contribute to that, just because there's going to be a lot less going on, or it's going to feel like there's a lot less if you push certain sounds out of the way and make them more secondary. But yeah, I typically don't go with remixes and whatnot, but typically I say that because I don't want to hear amateur rapping. Fundamentally, I don't really care about rapping as much as production. A remix, that's a good way of displaying production technique, and I sort of just like pop music. I feel like more and more nowadays I listen to rap music less and less. I've been getting into more trance type of stuff, as well as just what's it called, art pop. I don't know what you'd call it. Hyper pop. Is that the same thing? I don't know. These genres confuse me nowadays. Okay, let's greetings from Nunavut. MCI's from Nunavut. That's north of where I am. Okay, let's see who's some favorite actors here. Let's start off with let's start off with this one. I like Jonah Hill. I recently watched Forgetting Sarah Marshall, and Jonah Hill is one of the best improvisers of our generation, I think. He really made Wolf of Wall Street funny, in my opinion. So much of what he was saying in that movie seemed like it was just completely off the cuff, and the places he takes scenes makes me laugh. So let's listen to this by CEM Goons. A Turkish man is sending me his beat, so let's take a listen. was CM Joons. I'm not sure. So with this beat, I think, as I say, typically, I really like it when guys and gals push their textures and do something unique. I feel like with this beat, nothing really stood out to me texturally speaking, if that's an actual word. It was just a very straightforward piano, straightforward trap drums. And so I sort of didn't get much value out of what textures were used. That didn't really contribute in making this beat stand out. Rhythmically speaking, it was very straightforward. The piano was very 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the bass was like 1, 2. Everything just sort of changed at the exact same time, just like I mentioned in the video I put out earlier this month, in terms of having all the rhythms of your instruments change at the exact same time. I do think the drums did a good job of being a little bit rhythmically unique, but nonetheless, with what was happening with the main melody, with the piano and the bass, everything did feel a little bit too static for my liking, rhythmically speaking. So I think on those fronts, those are the two big culprits with this beat, and sort of why I didn't enjoy it as much. I would say that musically speaking, it sounded like everything was working with one another. You did a good job of coming up with those strings, and it still did musically work with what was happening in this beat. It was just those other components, I feel like, fell a little bit short. So being a little bit more audacious with your textures, trying to use different, more unique sounds, and not being as on the grid with all of your instruments and having them do the exact same thing, I think would have helped. Gary keeps asking me very strange questions. He asked me what number my glasses are. I have a feeling Gary is trying to form his image in my image. If you have pretty textured melody, would it be fine to use more staple drums? That's what I sort of do believe. Grout. If, yeah, obviously everything's like a balancing act, where if you have a very complicated all the melodic components in your beat are very dense and very full, at that point I would be a little bit more minimal, a little bit more conservative with my drums and not have them stand out as much. A lot of the reason why a lot of beats go wrong is because they go either very plain straightforward textures for their melody and their sort of instruments in the beat, and they go with a very straightforward plain drum, or they try to be very audacious and out there with their textures, and they also treat their drums the exact same way. I sort of see it as a sort of balancing act, whereas, and that's sort of true for everything. If you have a very melodically complex instrument over here, having something a little bit more simple over there is going to help. And this, we can sort of look at tonality and textures the exact same way, where if you have something very audacious and very unique over there, in order to sort of help the audience and listener understand the context of why that's so unique and out there, maybe choosing a drum sound that's a little bit more plain and straightforward is going to help. It's sort of a game of playing with context and juxtaposition, and finding a good balance in between the two. That's what I found helps for me whenever I used to make beats back in the days, where I tried to be audacious and out there with every single component in my beat. It would just end up sounding like a mess because there was no good amount of context. Nothing seemed like it was very straightforward. And to be irregular, something needs to sound regular, if that makes sense. You need context to create that sort of definition and juxtaposition. That's just my opinion. He's trying to be me. Gary's going to be stalking me. I'm scared. He's going to cut my face off and put it on his own face. Gary, I don't know what my glasses number is, but I do go to the gym. I haven't gone in months because COVID. I'm about to get demonetized for saying COVID also. So, yeah. Chris Rock is an actor? I did open Lil Nas X. He's not a rapper. I mean, an actor. I did open someone's beat and they got sad because I X'd out of it. So I'll go back into your beat phase. I will listen to your song here. We got another remix, Dua Lipa. So they can both fight over the $2 that this video is gonna make. I don't think I even monetize these streams, so who cares? Dua Lipa by Face, or a remix. Here we go.
I've always been the one to say the first goodbye. Had to love and lose 100 million times. Had to get it wrong to know just what I like. Now I'm falling. You say my name like I have never heard before. I'm indecisive, but this time I know for sure. I hope I'm not the only one that feels it all. Are you falling? Center of attention, you know you can get whatever you want from me. Whenever you want it, baby. It's you and my reflection. I'm afraid of all the things it could do to me. If I would've known it, baby, I would've stayed at home. Cause I was doing better alone. But when you said hello, I knew that was the end of it all. I should've stayed at home. Cause now there ain't no letting you go. Am I falling in love? One that could break my heart. Oh no, I was doing better alone. But when you said hello, I knew that was the end of it all. I should've stayed at home. Cause now there ain't no letting you go. Am I falling in love? One that could break my heart. I wonder when you go if I stay on your mind. Two can play that game, but you and me every time. Everyone before you was a waste of time. Hey, you got me. Center of attention, you know you can get whatever you want from me. Whenever you want it, baby. It's you and my reflection. I'm afraid of all the things it could do to me. If I would've known it, baby, I would've stayed at home. Cause I was doing better alone. But when you said hello, I knew that was the end of it all. I should've stayed. I wouldn't have stayed at home. Cause now there ain't no letting you go. Am I falling in love? One that could break my heart. Oh no, I was doing better alone. But when you said hello, I knew that was the end of it all. I should've stayed at home. Cause now there ain't no letting you go. Am I falling in love? One that could break my heart. Ooh, break my heart. Ooh, break my heart. Am I falling in love with the one that could break my heart? I would've stayed at home. Cause I was doing better alone. But when you said hello, I knew that was the end of it all. I should've stayed. I wouldn't have stayed at home. Cause now there ain't no letting you go. Am I falling in love? One that could break my heart. Oh no, no, I was doing better alone. But when you said hello, I knew that was the end of it all. I should've stayed at home. Cause now there ain't no letting you go. Am I falling in love? One that could break my heart.
All right, that was Faces beat there. Hold on, I'm still writing. All right. So what I'll say is that very clean mix. Everything was well put together. All the sounds that were chosen here were very deliberate sounding, and they sounded like they all have a good place in the beat overall. Never really felt like any particular sound was sticking out too much, although I will say, personal thing here, I'm just not a big fan of those excessive slides with the 808. That's just me though. I'm sure there are a lot of people in the chat that really love that. I think my big takeaway here, obviously it's like a sort of drill type of remix, which is a really cool idea. I think for me, Grout mentioned that like it sort of felt rushed with the stretching of the sample, and I sort of felt like my feeling is somewhat related to that, in that with the way this beat was arranged, the ups and downs weren't necessarily as high or low as I wanted them to be. So with a typical pop song, obviously the verse is going to be at a stable level, and then during the hook, that's when it gets very energetic, very excited, and very high energy. I think with the way you arranged everything in terms of the amount of sounds that you had in every single different section, it was a very straightforward type of energy level where the hook didn't really sound all that high energy. It just felt like yet another similar section to what was happening with the verse section. And the thing is, all the pieces in this beat, in this remix, felt very well put together and they all worked. But the thing is, where you put those pieces, I think I might try to shuffle those around. So maybe taking the pieces from the verse section where it felt a little bit too dense for me, in my opinion, taking like one or two of those sounds and maybe having those appear in the hook section. So by contrast, the verse section is going to be a little bit more low and a little bit more minimal, and the vocals will feel like they're going to stand out and won't feel as like hurried or very dense. And so once we do get to the hook section, it's going to feel a lot more high energy. And so that sort of balance might work better with this type of poppier type of song. That's, I think on the chat you said that's what you're trying to do. That's what I probably would have tried in terms of the arrangement that you have here, maybe taking some of the pieces, moving them around. Because again, what you chose here and the way you programmed them were really, really well done. I want to get that, I want to make sure I say that everything fit very well, and your arrangements that you came up with on like a sort of loop level really worked well. The texture that you chose worked really well. Just where you had them in the overall beat arrangement, that might be something that you might want to play around with. Yes. All right, guys, one more beat we're gonna listen to. Someone chose John David Washington as their favorite actor. I think he really did not do well in Tenet. I think he was one of the big reasons why I didn't like that movie. Hopefully he doesn't hear this and beat me up, though. Last beat, because I need to urinate, and once again, I don't want to soil myself. Grout Daddy, me and you are gonna talk after this, so please don't run away. I need to talk to ya. So, all right, I'm gonna listen to Kemi's beat here because he chose Johnny Sins. Kemi, you disgusting pig. So let's listen to his beat here. He's got this Eminem type of beat. He made me laugh with his choice. So thank you once again, everyone showing up. Again, if you guys want to join my course, betterbeatmaker.com, it's a course where I show you guys all the things that most likely you're doing that are keeping you from being a better beat maker, all the mistakes that you're making. It's essentially everything that I've learned in the 10 years. Plus, when I listen to you guys' beats, there's common mistakes that I hear. It's basically the intention of, if you ever feel like your beats don't come out how you want them to, you want to figure out what you're doing wrong. It's basically a huge troubleshooting type of course, so where I show you everything that you need to know in a sort of 5-part process in order to improve your beats. And yeah, we'll be doing this again in 2 weeks probably. So thank you guys for showing up once again. Hopefully you had fun. And I love you all. Thank you. All right, Kemi, let's listen to your beat here.
Kenny Beats.
Alright guys, I'll see you later. I'm logging off now. Could you imagine? Kemi would probably start to cry if I just didn't bother reviewing it. So I'm going to repeat a lot of what... Oh, my face is off camera again. How does this keep happening? I've been sitting in the same position this whole time. And the camera keeps turning. So I'll repeat what... I agree with what a lot was said in the chats. I think the drums are just a little bit too loud. Either bring those down or the melody or the sample up. I think that would have been good. The kick had some strange highs in it. I think I might have controlled for that. But I think compared to where I first heard your beats way back, it sounds like you've been making improvements there. I really, really, really liked what you did with that sample, the sort of back and forth that you did in terms of like the first 8 bars were just this one sound, and then you were able to flawlessly transition into this other sound, and it really, really worked well. So I'm very impressed with what you did there. The string samples, they felt like they, they were very reminiscent of that period. So I think that really did fit in with what the beat was doing. So I think it's just the small little adjustments that you can make to the drums, and your technique with the production on the sample was very, very good, Kemi. Well done. I'm very proud of you, and I'm proud to call you my son. So thank you, son, for making a good beat. Thank you guys for showing up once again. It's been fun. It's been real. I hope you've had some laughs, some smiles, not some tears though. I'll be doing this again in 2 weeks. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.